On this fun Friday, I want to share with you the 8 things that I wish I knew in my 3rd year of homeschooling. And the 8 things that I believe I could have learned more quickly if I'd had a coach guide me. So I'm Teresa Wiedrich, a graduated homeschool mom turned certified life coach, and I'm so glad to meet you. If we haven't already met, I'd love to hear about you and your homeschool. Just mention your thoughts, your experience down below. If you relate, I'd love to hear too. So in my 3rd year of homeschooling, probably around this time, January or February, in slump month, I remember thinking I've got all the things figured out. I know how to deliver a home education. I can out private school the private school. I have things figured out, except that I don't feel confident. I was exhausted. I woke up one morning exhausted, and remember thinking that it was really kind that my kids had a cup of coffee at my bedside table, but there was a ring of coffee on the base and it was sloshing around, or it was sloshed around, but somebody put it there because they were thinking of me. I woke up and I remember thinking, I don't feel like homeschooling today, but I could hear the kids in the kitchen. They were arguing in the kitchen about something, you fill in the blank. And I remember getting up going, I don't have energy for this. I just need a hot cup of coffee and I need a few moments quiet to myself. When I got into the kitchen, I discovered a couple of the older kids were actually making waffles or pancakes for the younger ones. They were flipping the pancakes. There were drops of pancake dough on the floor and various other places. And I remember feeling irritated that it was messy and this really wasn't the way I wanted my day to begin. But somehow I wrangled the energy, mostly myself, my own energy, and figured out how to be more present with them in that moment and not get so agitated. Tidied the things up, thanked them for doing what they were doing, and then we moved in to the great room, or to their family room, and we started our morning routine with the morning basket. Well, I don't remember if it was one child that was irritated with another child, wanted to sit closer to mom, or they were fighting over the Legos that they were playing with as they were listening to me read. I don't know what it was, but I just remember feeling really agitated, overwhelmed, and someone got really loud. And then I realized it was me. And I excused myself, or I left to the other room to cool down. And when I got into the other room, I remember thinking, this is not how I envisioned my homeschool days, on repeat, starting with hope, even though I felt tired and exhausted and kind of overwhelmed with all the things, and then ending with agitation, bickering, loudness. I remember thinking, this isn't how I imagined things would be. I knew that I could deliver or out private school to private school, but it didn't feel the way I wanted it to feel. So instead of feeling confident that morning, I felt exhausted. I certainly doubted everything I was doing and wondered if I was failing my kids. If you are in your 3rd year or beyond, I would love to hear from you. Just drop a comment below and say, yes, I'm in my 3rd year or my 4th year or my 8th year and I'm feeling that way. The goal of this conversation is to save you so much stress. So I remember having a moment where I messaged my husband and he wasn't available. He was in Emerge and he couldn't answer my texts. And so then I turned to my friend and I texted her and she wasn't available, or she was available, but she said to me, hey, have you watched this TEDx talk? I'll give you the link. Why don't you check it out? So I told my kids to just, take the younger ones to go outside and play in the yard, or I don't remember, occupy them for a bit while I watched this TEDx talk. Well, by the end of this video, where I'm watching this, blonde woman, she had a nice short coif and a big black chunky shoes, and she was talking about feeling shamed and having a challenge with perfectionism and feeling like she'd been a failure at a certain point of her life. But she realized that she hadn't been honest with herself. She wasn't being vulnerable with herself. She wouldn't be vulnerable with others, but she certainly wasn't being honest with herself, that actually she hadn't been dealing with some really important things. And it was pulling her energy and her happiness away from her practical daily activities. She was striving, but not present in her life. And that was the moment that I knew that I didn't know what I needed. I didn't know what it was that the next step would be. I didn't know what I was supposed to do. I just knew that I was going to have to be honest with how things were really going. So that was Brené Brown in a TEDx talk, and she had a big effect, a big turning point. She influenced a big turning point in my life. It was like, as Oprah says, an aha moment. Well, I wish I knew what I learned in that moment, that this homeschool mom life is not just about academics. It is not just about figuring out what curriculum is the right curriculum for our kids, or what's the right routine, or, what are the learning outcomes that my kids need to learn by the end of the year. No, this homeschool mom life is so much more. It's about mindset and building relationships and building self-awareness and relationships with ourselves. I knew I needed support, but I didn't even know what kind at that moment. So I'm going to share with you the 8 reasons that I think having had a life coach or a therapist, somebody to walk alongside me, would have helped me in my 3rd year. Because one of the things I wish I knew was that a coach could have helped me trust my instincts and recognize what my strengths were. I was second guessing myself. I didn't feel good enough. I was always doing. I was overdoing. I kept myself busy because I thought that that was the ideal way to engage an education in my home or offer an education in my home. I was looking for the perfect curriculum. Do you relate? Or investing too many hours in trying to plan that curriculum, or all of my home education efforts. I was certainly it was overwhelming for myself, but I later learned that it was also overwhelming my kids, even though I thought, but they're interesting activities. And they were, but there were too many. A coach would have helped me trust my instincts and recognize my strengths. I also wish I knew that if I was starting to feel overwhelmed, I needed to do something about it. I was trying to do all the things, every subject, every project, every activity, 3 read-alouds a day. Yes, really, you heard me say that right. 3 read-alouds, 1 with breakfast, a history read-aloud after lunch, and a bedtime read-aloud. When I learned that another homeschool mom in our co-op required 6 of her kids to do an hour of violin practice, beyond the violin lesson that each of them had that week, I was like, well, obviously I'm not doing enough, because I expected 15 minutes of practice every day. Clearly, that was not enough. Doing more seemed like the only option, but I felt overwhelmed. Like my head just had too much stored on its hard drive, and I couldn't close a tab if I wanted to, because it was still processing, still processing, still processing. Do you feel me? Are you there? A coach would have helped me simplify and focus on what truly mattered. I wish I knew that I needed to bolster my relationships by bolstering my boundaries. I let others' opinions shake me. Questions like, are your kids learning enough, made me feel anxious. Or what if they want to go to the school in the future? Will they be behind? But you're not going to homeschool through high school, right? Statements like that shook me. A coach would have helped me stand firm, set healthy boundaries with my family, friends, and even sometimes myself, when I was causing myself that discomfort and questioning. I wish I knew that there was a way to prevent burnout, and that I actually had to plan for it. It wasn't an option. I needed to plan for it if I didn't want it to happen. I pushed myself too hard. I thought exhaustion was normal. That's a motherhood thing, right? Certainly, it's a homeschool motherhood thing. It's just normal. Well, if you're a loving mom, you're going to always be available. Never take a break. Listen to every story your child tells, even if it's a 45-minute story when you've still got 3 more kids to put to bed and it's 9 o'clock. But that's what a good mom does, right? A coach would have helped me build in rest and self-care without guilt. The fifth thing I wish I knew was that my emotional triggers, my frustrations, they were telling me something. In fact, if I could spend time with them, identify what the patterns were, it would tell me a big, long life story. I didn't realize how much stress and frustration and my perfectionistic tendencies were affecting our homeschool environment. I didn't get it. I was just trying to do all the things, create the best life, create the best education for each of them. I didn't realize that that meant I didn't have bandwidth if I wasn't managing those things, so that when things didn't go as planned in my homeschool day, which, as you know, they don't always go planned, or when a child couldn't find a soccer cleat as we were pressed for time to get to the soccer field, I felt stressed and irritated, and sometimes would tell everybody, get in the car. And it was intense and frustrating. And that energy rubbed off on everyone, not just between me and the kids. A coach would have helped me recognize patterns so I could respond intentionally instead of reacting. The sixth thing that I wish I knew in my third year was that keeping a strong connection with my kids really is the most important thing. Everyone says it for a reason. I got so caught up in academics that I forgot why I was homeschooling. It was about relationship. This one big sweet life that we had with years of reading together on our sofas or various locations around the world because we did a lot of traveling. The moments when they did these deep dives on topics that they seemed to me far out of reach based on their age. They put me in awe of my kids. It put me in awe the moments where we shared these meaningful, deep conversations about things that really mattered. And those moments where I'm storing up all those eyeball to eyeball moments with each of the kids, those would go down in the Homeschool Mama scrapbook of my mind. Those were the moments that really were pointing to the reason why I was homeschooling. And those moments were the moments that allowed for deeper connection with each of them. But I didn't get that in my third year. I thought homeschooling was about academics. A coach would have helped me prioritize connection, not just academics. The seventh thing I wish I knew was that letting go of unrealistic expectations was a possibility, that I didn't need to just amuse myself by talking about how unrealistic I was, or that I had high expectations. I could actually do something about it. I thought my homeschool should look a certain way, to be perfectly structured, perfectly calm, perfectly productive all the time. Do you feel me? Is that your experience? Or maybe that's just me. No, you feel me? Which, if I could just achieve this perfect, somehow that would make me feel enough, which would make me know I was doing the right thing. Whereas a coach could have helped me lean in to flexibility and a learning rhythm that would actually fit our family. And the eighth thing I wish I knew was that I needed to find a vision for the long haul, something much more big than seeing how we would do this upcoming year. I was really just trying to get through the day, make it meaningful, but trying to survive the day. That's how it felt. I wouldn't have said it, but that's how it felt. I wasn't thinking about the bigger picture, what I really wanted for their education, what I valued, educational values or my personal values, or who these kids were or what they needed. What did I value for me? They're going to spend their entire lives learning, not just until age 18 in my home. They're going to spend their entire years living and learning, and it's going to happen beyond my home. But don't I know that I am slowly working myself out of a job? They will indeed live beyond those 18 years, most likely. And my goal is that they will grow up, leave home, and create their own meaningful lives lived on purpose. I wish I had seen the bigger picture, but I know that a coach could have helped me see where we were headed and set goals that aligned with our values. If any of these things that I've shared with you today resonate with you, what is one thing that you wish you knew earlier or that maybe you're learning now? If you're in your third year, or even if you're in your first or your 10th and you feel stuck, then let's chat. Coaching gave me the clarity that I wish I had back then, and I'd love to help you get there too. So join me for a conversation. All you need to do is say, hey, I'd like to have a conversation with you to learn more, and I will DM you. Also, if you're not ready for that yet, you can always grab my Living Your Life on Purpose checklist for homeschool moms, and it will help lead you into discussion on the most important things. So thanks for being here. And if you've got thoughts, DM me or put them in the comments. I'm Teresa Wiedrich. I'm the certified life coach here to support homeschool moms because I know that homeschooling can be challenging. And I also know you don't have to do it alone. That's why I'm here.